Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day to all you baseball fans, wherever you're listening right now. Welcome to Diamond Digest This Week in Baseball podcast. We are on episode 1, and I am your host, Jordan Lazowski. We've got a great clue for you today. We're looking forward to recapping last week of baseball and previewing this week, showing you what to watch for, some of the key storylines around the league, and, this week in baseball means we're going to be doing it every week for you. So we're really looking forward to it. Got a special cast to start us out tonight. I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves. Don't all jump at once.
I guess I'll go first. I'm Jonah. I'm a senior at UCF. I cover mainly the Marlins for Diamond Digest, but I also like writing about fantasy and will write about the Mets occasionally. And I actually like writing about sociology and sport also because that was basically my major. So, yeah.
I'll go next. My name's Diego. I'm a senior at Boise State University, and I mainly cover the Giants because I'm from California. The Giants are my team. It was great to watch them win those World Series in the early 2010s. And, yeah, I'll cover pretty much anything baseball. I like math. That's my major, so I like the whole statistical side of it. So that's why I'm here.
I'm Callie. I cover the A's and the Padres for Diamond Digest. I am a junior in high school. I don't like math, but I still like the numbers of baseball because it's so unique about baseball. No other sport can be quantified and analyzed like baseball can be numbers-wise.
Thanks.
Agreed. And again, I'm Jordan Lazowski. I kind of handle the editing, the day-to-day work on Diamond Digest. I'm a White Sox fan, longtime White Sox fan. I was a math major. I graduated last year, 2019, from Notre Dame. So we got a lot of numbers people on this podcast. We're looking forward to bringing it all to you. And we're going to start with a look at the standings. So as you know, Major League Baseball expanded the playoffs for this year to 8 teams per league. So now each of the top 2 teams from each of the divisions will now be in the playoffs, as well as 2 at-large teams, depending on their record. If the league were to stop play today, which it's COVID season, so could happen any day. If that were to happen, your 2 AL East teams would be the Yankees and the Orioles. In the Central, the Twins and the White Sox would make the playoffs. In the AL West, Houston and Oakland would be in. And the 2 at-large teams, 4 AL Central teams in total, would make the playoffs. The Indians and the Tigers would round it out. In the NL, the Braves and the Marlins, despite the Marlins only playing 3 games, would take
Win
the NL
percentage,
East.
Baby.
Let's go.
Welcome to winning percentage at its finest.
Can't miss the playoffs if you don't play games.
New strategy: intentionally get yourself infected once you leave the division.
The Cubs and Brewers would take the NL Central. The Rockies and Dodgers, the NL West. And the 2 at-large teams, much like 2 AL Central teams, 4 AL Central teams, there would be 4 NL West teams, the Padres and Giants, those 2 at-large teams. So, my fellow Diamond Digesters, if that's even a word, I don't know, I made it up. Anywho, your thoughts after a week of baseball. I don't know what we are. We're podcasters, people, whatever it is. But
we eat diamond.
People.
Yes, we eat but anywho. After a week of standings, let's get this on track already. After a week of playing, after a week in the standings, what are some of your key takeaways, whether it's your personal team or whether it's looking around the league? And don't say the Marlins shouldn't play again just so they can guarantee themselves a playoff spot, because I know someone's thinking it.
I think
I was going to say that.
Wild. Oh.
I was going to say that about the Cardinals, but so that they don't make the playoffs.
You can't do it for the Cardinals either.
On an actual baseball note, I think one thing that's crazy right now is the fact that the Rays are they miss. Because the Rays are a highly talked about team, they're supposed to be the team in the AL East that's supposed to challenge the Yankees. They're sitting right now at 4-6 with that pitching staff. It's kind of crazy.
I'm surprised that the Tigers are as high as they are right now. I mean, they were unequivocally the worst team in baseball last year, but their offense seems to have turned around at least slightly. Doesn't Jacoby Jones have like 3 or 4 home runs on the season right now? Something like
Yeah,
that.
Something like that.
So, I mean, you're seeing a team in the Tigers, too, where they're just getting unexpected, well, not necessarily unexpected contributions, but when you sign guys like C.J. Crone and Jonathan Scope, like, you're going to get to be a better team. Yeah, you're going to get better just by doing stuff like that. It's a odd thought for rebuilding teams, but at the same
Fulmer,
time.
he is back too.
Sorry?
Isn't Fulmer back too?
Yes, Michael Fulmer has been making some sort of appearances for the Tigers. I believe he's been limited on his innings, obviously, coming back from surgery. But
Tommy John.
He was limited in his first start. I think he's scheduled in the next couple of days for a second.
So, I mean, you're seeing that. You're starting to see a team where, you know, they don't necessarily have expectations. You probably expect them to fall off, much like the Orioles, but that's kind of the fun of a 60-game season.
For sure.
Those
No
rebuilding
expectations
teams
mean
look
they
good.
can.
Yeah,
No
I mean,
expectations means they can only be surprising.
exactly.
Yeah. And honestly, similar to the Rays, everyone expected the Braves to be good, but like I don't think anyone was expecting them to run away with the division. But the Nationals and Mets just have not looked good so far this year.
Well, with the Nationals, too, you're seeing a team without its star with Juan Soto, and you're seeing a team with a lineup that now looks very pedestrian, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
That's
they
fair.
were hit hard with free agency in the offseason.
I
They
mean,
did.
losing Rendon is a tough loss. I mean,
Yeah,
even
but they
if you
were-
kept your pitching staff, but
Yeah, they were still
the team that gained Rendon isn't doing much better.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
the poor
The Angels
Angels.
have been awful.
Yeah.
I mean, the Angels are one team that's you look at that pitching staff and you're like, okay, I can understand.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have Ohtani, which we'll get into, if you don't have a consistent Canning, which, I mean, Canning has looked pretty good. But after that, it's
Dylan
Dylan Bundy.
Dylan Bundy.
Julio Teheran.
Right. If you're relying on those names, what do you expect? Now, here's an interesting question. Having Mike Trout just had his kid.
That.
Yeah, Beckham, Aaron Trout. Honestly,
Love to see
Beckham
it.
Trout is
The
that's a
legendary
baseball
name.
That's
Yeah.
a
The
baseball name.
legendary name.
But having
Yeah.
a kid, it's an interesting question. At what point does it almost not become worth it for him to come back and play? It's a serious question, given the environment we're going in.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to necessarily expose himself to COVID, and he's doing it on a daily basis. It becomes an interesting question. The Angels are now, I think, 3-7 after their loss today, 3-6, whatever it is.
3-7.
At what point does it not feel worth it to come back? At what point you're like, this is a lost season. I'm making $300 million plus. Whatever chump change I make this year really isn't worth it to me.
But even without Trout, that offense still has good potency with MVP candidate David Fletcher, Justin Upton, Ohtani, and Rendon. That's a very good 1 through 4 part of the order. The back half, though, not really good.
It's also not been the back half. Their bullpen has just been abysmal.
Mm-hmm.
That's
They've
also true.
won, like 5 saves
4 out of
already.
5, yeah. 4 out of 5
It
saves.
is. I think if I were Mike Trout, I think you just don't come back, period.
Interesting.
I wasn't expecting him to play, to be honest.
Same. The fact that he started playing at all was like, I'm like, oh, cool. We get to see more Trout. But I think, especially just having the kid in the midst of everything that's going on, and because he plays for the Angels, where LA and Anaheim are kind of an epicenter, it's not worth it. Like, at least I don't think it is.
For sure. And honestly, I'm of the opinion that as much as I would love a season, I think all players should put their safety first for the year.
I mean,
Maybe.
Yeah, you're getting to a point where it's like, if you have a pregnant wife at this point, I'm not sure I would be willing to come back and risk it, especially knowing my team has gone 3-7 to start this season, and that's already 1/6 of the way through.
Do you really want to put your family under the potential stress of heart inflammation like Eduardo,
Sure.
pitcher for the Red
Rodriguez.
Sox got, or a 104-degree fever like Freddie Freeman got?
Right. It's difficult to say. Yeah, it's difficult to sit here and say, yes, baseball definitely takes precedent for me. I wouldn't expect anyone to say that in a season like this.
And I think maybe the most surprising name of the opt-outs was Izan Diaz, just because he needs the season to like prove himself. But like he put himself first, and that was super surprising. Yeah, good for him, honestly.
I mean, you never look back at any of these guys and say, I feel they shouldn't opt out. Like that at the end of the day, the fact that we get a season, the fact that we're doing this podcast, doing all our writing, that's the fun of it. And we're lucky to have that right now, but it's not something I necessarily think we should expect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What about on the NL side of things? I mean, Diego, you've got a Giants team that's rebuilding right now and has found itself in the midst of an 8-team playoff.
Yeah, it's fun. I don't know. In the season preview article that I wrote for the Giants, I was like, if they're 30-30 at the end of the season, consider that a major win. And through a sixth of the season, they're 5-5. They're on pace. So I mean, it's interesting to see the team in such a weird situation actually performing way above expectations. Because 5-5 against the Padres, the Dodgers, and the Rangers, that's pretty decent, I'd say. We split the series with the Dodgers to start the year, 2-2. That was not expected by anyone around the league at all. I don't even think the Giants players expected that, but what we got. So, I mean, it's fun to see how much is now possible with a season that's so weird.
I think
the Giants are a really interesting team, especially with what they're doing with their pitching. Using Drew Smyly both as a starter and in relief. I
Same
think
with Kevin Gausman.
Mm-hmm. I think their strategy is one to keep an eye on, and one we might see adopted in a similar way to how some teams adopted the opener strategy that the Rays used.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Giants only have 2 concrete starters in Johnny Cueto and Jeff Samardzija. And the way Samardzija's been pitching, I don't know how long he's going to But Cueto, you definitely sees trotted out every 5 games. But they've handled their pitching. It's been far above my expectations, and I'm sure the rest of our fan base, and even the rest of baseball. So we'll see how it continues, if the league catches on, or because there's no predictability to that bullpen. Or the starters even. So tomorrow their game is still TBD. We probably won't get a starter until 6 hours before game time.
Yeah, and also I can see a team like the Angels. You said they were having bullpen struggles. Maybe they could adopt a strategy of letting a reliever go 3 to start the game. Someone like maybe Cam Bedrosian, let him go 3. Let say Dylan Bundy go 3 on 2 or 3 days rest, and then someone else go 3.
I was surprised the Twins were doing that with Tyler Clippard. I had no clue he was being used in a starter role until earlier today.
Yeah.
I had no clue Tyler Clippard was a Twin until right now.
I think you're going to see more teams do that, though. You're going to get desperate at some point during the season. The Twins are a great example of a team that, after their front 2 guys, maybe even front 3, if you count Kenta Maeda, which I think you should, you're struggling to say, I feel comfortable throwing Rich Hill and Homer Bailey out there every 4th and 5th day, and then saying at the same time, I want this team to win the division. So I think you're going to see more of that, and you kind of, Callie alluded to it. Diego, you've kind of alluded to it. Even Jonah, you have too. The opener strategy being something that hopefully more teams adopt. I think speaking from a personal perspective, the White Sox are a huge team that I think there's a lot of inconsistencies, concerns with the rotation. It's a very young rotation that could possibly benefit from what has been, for them at least so far, a pretty stellar bullpen.
For Aaron Bummer out and then have Dylan Cease follow him for 3 or 4 innings.
Exactly. Doing something that feels a little bit different, a little bit odd, but also fits how odd and different this season is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the statements speak for themselves and how odd and different the season is.
Yeah. I mean, when you have 4 teams from 2 different divisions potentially making up the playoffs, that's a pretty huge deal to be talking about. Yeah. I mean, I was surprised to see that.
Also, where it stands, I think the consensus Diamond Digest rankings, 4 out of the 5 bottom teams are all currently playoff teams.
Yeah.
We did a great
Yeah.
job, clearly.
Yeah.
Hey, I was so high on the Giants.
Hire us, ESPN.
I rated the Marlins as high as I could.
Was that 29?
No, it was like 23.
I'm pretty sure like 90% of our writers who had participated in that power ranking had the Tigers at 30.
Yeah.
Or Orioles or Mariners at 30, Tigers somewhere
Down there. Yeah.
right there, Giants, Marlins.
Then again, we're also only 10 games in for not even for every team yet, so
Mhm.
there's plenty of baseball
Yeah.
left. But through the first portion, 6 of the season here, things are already so strange.
Yeah.
But keep it strange. Keep it fun. Keep it interesting.
Yeah, keep it.
That's what
different,
it
keep
comes down
fun.
to. If some
think
team
that-
sneaks in, let it happen.
I
Let the
think
kids play.
this year will be written down in history books for a lot of different reasons that baseball usually go into the history books, and I think that's a good thing.
Can't
Yeah,
wait
I'd
for the
agree.
30 for 30 on this.
The 30 for 30.
Callie, you directing it? Pitch it now.
God, no.
Pitch the idea now and cash in on it.
Let's talk about COVID again, though. I think it's important to really recognize it. And Callie, I'll turn it over to you because you're the one who's built out this list of all the players. I mean, you can even just name some of the notable names here. And I know
Ryan
we've talked about
Zimmerman.
it, and I think it's worth at least reading off some of the names and saying, hey, you're not seeing these guys for this reason, whether it's not you're a fan of this team or whether it's you're just a baseball fan. You might not know these players are missing. So I think, Callie, if you want to read off just some of the more notable names, I mean, they're all notable in their own way.
Mhm. Yeah.
But kind of give people a sense, where the league is
Perspective.
at, and just for the respect of all these players who are, I mean, not just the players who are on the field every day taking the risk, but also those who have decided that there are risks back at home that far outweigh any risk they're willing to take on the field.
Yeah. Today, Yoenis Cespedes opted out.
Very strangely, but he did.
Yeah.
Very strangely.
But I think what's very notable about this list is it's all mostly established players, which I think is really heartbreaking because you have those in-between players, those guys who are just waiting for their opportunity to break out, to get consistent playing time. They might be forced to play in an uncomfortable situation because it's either this or potentially never make the majors at all. So a list of players who have opted out, it's Cespedes, Mike Leake, Ryan Zimmerman, Joe Ross, Ian Desmond, David Price, Tyson Ross, Felix Hernandez, Buster Posey, Michael Kopech, Jordan Hicks, Cole Stewart, Lorenzo Cain, and Isan Diaz. Like, the only real non-major players on that list are Joe and Tyson Ross, and Cole Stewart and Isan Diaz.
And, you bring up a
All the
couple
other
good
players
points in
are
there.
relatively well known.
Yeah. And, I mean, you bring up a couple good points in there. It's a lot of us non-established guys are going to play because they know this might be my only chance to really get my name out there. But at the same time, you have guys like Isan Diaz and Michael Kopech who are giving up a year of service time because, we talk we talk endlessly about the importance of service time and how you want to start your clock as soon as possible so you can finally get to that free agency. Kopech's going to be like 25, I think, next year. So either way, he's a year older, and he's still got to go 6 more years after that. I mean, sure, as a fan of your favorite team, White Sox fan here, you're like, hey, I get more years of this guy. But you also have to think of it as you're giving, as a player, you're giving up your chance to reach free agency earlier. I mean, that's a serious risk that these guys got to take into consideration along with it all. I mean, it is not a favorable position to be put in when you're deciding to opt out.
Yeah. One interesting note about that, and it doesn't really talk about service time, but more career accolades. Markakis was opted out and he opted back in, and he is a guy you can argue is borderline Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you have some pretty certain Hall of Famers in that list, and Hernandez, well, he might not be as Serta. classified as Posey, but Posey's a definite Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
So you're seeing guys who could either help or hurt their case, just deciding not to play.
And I think Votto is a definite Hall of Famer, but I wouldn't be surprised if he opts out because he just contracted the virus, supposedly.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you're starting to see more and more names going down. I mean, Lorenzo Cain just recently decided to opt out. At no point is this. Yeah, Cespedes too. At no point is this necessarily going to stop.
Yeah, I think if anything, it ramps up because you see guys there a couple weeks in, they've like assessed the risk in real time, and guys like Lorenzo Cain, they're like, "Hey, I've seen how things are going around the league in our organization. I'm not about it. I'm going out."
I think that the Marlins outbreak as well as the Cardinals outbreak might have been a wake-up call to some that the league isn't as safe as it's projecting it is.
Right.
Well, that's an interesting point, too, because if the rumors are true, the Cardinals were out at a casino and the Marlins were out at a club in Atlanta. I don't know what the nightlife is like in Atlanta, but apparently it's good enough to risk the threat of COVID.
It's pretty good.
Apparently it's pretty good. Johnny, you might have some experience down there or something.
And I think, shockingly, the Marlins got news about the positive tests and then elected to continue to play a game that day against the Phillies.
Yeah.
So it speaks to two things. It speaks to how safe the league is, and it's a really interesting point because it's not necessarily the protocols that are in place. We could argue protocols all day, and, we all assumed it was probably going to be a breakdown of the protocols not being strong enough that really ended this league for the year. But at this point, we're starting to see that it's just a blatant disregard for the protocols that's really hurting the league right now. And it's not so necessarily not safe, as you're mentioning, Callie, because of the protocols the MLB's put in place, but because of the players' lack of willingness to abide by them.
Well, I'm also mostly shocked that there wasn't a protocol in place that said, don't play a game if you have a player infected with COVID, and players have been exposed to COVID very recently.
I mean, it comes back to that, too. It's if you're not going to follow what's been put in place for you, and if you're not going to make smart decisions as a team, as an organization, as a league, this is going to end sooner than any of us think.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I know it's under investigation, but assuming the investigation comes up with the same things as the rumors, I definitely think there will be some form of punishment for at least the Marlins, and if it's true about the Cardinals, probably the Cardinals also.
Yeah.
I think something interesting to think about as well is you bring up it's more so the players not following these rules. Could it be that maybe players in the Mets and the Brewers are blatantly disrespecting these rules too, and that's why you have a guy like Kane, a guy like Cespedes opting out? It's because they're watching their teammates just blatantly disregard the rules, and they're like, "Hey, you guys are dumb. I'm going to go look out for myself now." If everything was still in place and everyone was following these rules, you think they might have stayed? Something like it brings up certain ideas, maybe this is a possible reason for things these continued.
Yeah, and when I read the new protocols, I assumed that it would be mandatory, in the KBO, and everything would look like the KBO because that worked. They have fans again, but
they also had a nation that followed protocol.
Yeah.
That's a whole different issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It speaks to, just how divisive and how unfortunate the situation has become with dealing with COVID. That you're seeing teams and players, if the rumors are true, again, we have to keep that in mind, not putting the league's best interest even at heart. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't sit here and try and claim I know anything about being a Major League Baseball player, but at the same time, reading it as we went out and we did this in this city, that doesn't look good no matter what justification you have for me. And I mean, it's those optics, and God forbid this league ends early, of having this canceled because players were going out and making blatantly poor decisions that,
Yeah.
you know,
But
that just blatantly disregarded protocols.
already with MLB's fan base on the fritz a bit.
Right. If you're the only major sport to start up and cancel, NFL will never lose fans. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
NFL could not play this year. No one would worry. College football, same thing.
Yeah.
If baseball is the only major sport to start up and cancel, it's not a good look. And it's something we talked about back when there were all these arguments over restarting. Like the longer these arguments drag out, no matter which side of it you're on, no matter how long these arguments drag out, no matter what side of it you're on, no matter how long they're doing this for, it looks bad every day the league can't come to a conclusion.
Yeah. The league might also be at fault for the league not coming to a conclusion because they decided to not implement a bubble situation like we see with MLS, the NHL, the NBA. Formula One even has their own sort of thing where they're running back-to-back races at circuits, so they can stay more in a bubble.
And the problem with that, though, is too, they thought about the Arizona plan, the Arizona/Florida plan. Players Association didn't. Yeah, but at the same time, even the idea of a bubble, the Players Association didn't want it. It's something that, you know, and now you're seeing maybe why, as these players try and go out and enjoy their time, that they didn't want to be stuck in the bubble, no matter where it was, no matter if it's a hot spot or not. I think it's interesting to try and really figure out, you know, if you could press the do-over button, what would you do differently? And I think that, I mean, you can argue whether or not you'd want to have a season, whether or not you should have come back as soon as you did, whether or not protocols were right. At the same time, you want to avoid as many sort of situations like this where the narrative is no longer what's going on the field. But
you don't want to be the deciding factor on who makes the playoffs and who wins the World Series.
Yeah.
Who stayed healthy. You do not want. Well, more than it usually is.
No doubt.
Yeah.
More beyond like avoiding UCL injuries and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we're about to get into this speaking of people who, don't necessarily regret decisions, but also some who might be regretting the decision to start up the season as quickly as they did. We've got a Mookie Betts gigantic extension and a whirlwind of pitcher injuries that, you know, between the shortened season and the quick turnaround time did not necessarily help them. But we'll start with the Mookie Betts extension. 12 years, $365 million. More money than I could ever imagine needing. More money than I could ever imagine what to do with it. Los Angeles Dodgers do not regret, likely, trading for Mookie Betts. Diego, I'll start with you. You're the Giants fan. You're about to see Mookie Betts for the next 12 years. Torturing your team.
12 years.
There's a no trade clause in the contract, isn't there?
Yeah.
No trade clauses can be waived. But I mean, like, good for Mookie. Like, he's proven that. I think he's earned it. He's a hell of a player in Boston. I mean, but like, as a Giants fan, like, I respect the hell out of Mookie. Like, he's been doing good things. He's a great ball player, but also, like, I don't want to see him for 12 years. Like,
Probably the biggest thing you can say that shows how much you respect him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like, I think these large contracts are always like just mind-boggling as when they get bigger and bigger. But I mean, he's a great player, assuming he can stay healthy. But I don't know. I mean, come the end of this contract, age 39 season, like, Mookie, what are you going to do with Mookie then? Like, I mean, when the universal DH inevitably becomes a thing, which I don't want it to be either because I'm an NL baseball fan. But, I think, I mean, if his bat holds, like, as well, I mean, it's not like he's like the most like dazzling offensive player either, but he's a solid player all around. And like, if his defense inevitably regresses over 12 years, which it should, and if it doesn't, he's just superhuman and deserves all the money in the world. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Like I'd say 7-8 years down the road, but for those 7 or 8 years, he's going to be trouble in the NL West, and hopefully the Dodgers continue their World Series woes because I enjoy watching that.
But yeah, Mookie is not going to age as well as someone like, say, Mike Trout, for instance, because he isn't as good as of a power hitter, and he doesn't walk as much. And your eye is one of the things that will age best, as well as power. But your foot speed and your ability to turn balls hit into play into hits, that's going to diminish fairly quickly once you turn past 30. And that's a pretty major part of Mookie's game. Let me just quickly look up what his career BABIP is right now. I'm pretty sure it's like 3 or something.
BABIP
The
Warriors.
Padres fan in you is coming out right now. I can feel it.
At least with mine is like he's a Dodger, so I don't like him. That's
it's only a career 314 BABIP.
Only,
yeah, like what? Only 314.
But he only has a career walk rate of 10.2, which is not ideal.
Yeah.
Awful.
I mean,
compared to Trout, who has a 20% walk rate.
Comparing anyone to Trout is unfair to the other player. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, like my baseball has been one track NL East, and I haven't paid that much attention. I knew he was a superstar in the making. Now is a superstar, but like I'm starting to realize just how good he is. And also, like Callie, don't kill me for being a bit more old school here. I do love that he's like a great defender, great on the base pass, and I think that that's the real value. Is like one of the bigger values that doesn't get talked about as much.
Yeah, his defense is stellar. Combining him with Cody Bellinger is just unfair.
Like the throw he had a couple days ago, where he threw out, I don't remember who at third base.
Marte.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deep in right field. It was like
350 on the dime.
Yeah. Like that's going to stick around for at least the next 5-6 years.
I mean, if you're a team like the Dodgers, you can afford the rough back end of a contract.
If you're a team like the Dodgers, you can
yourself.
afford. Period. You can just afford things.
Maybe the Mets will give up a good prospect for the back end of this contract also.
Probably, honestly.
But at the same time, you got to look at Mookie and think, given the COVID situation, given how owners have been about how much money they're anticipating losing or telling us they're anticipating losing, there was no way Mookie Betts was getting anything like this on the open market. I think he recognized that early. I think the Dodgers recognized that early, and good on the Dodgers for making sure they kept their superstar in right field.
It was smart.
And thank God they're in the NL because I don't want to deal with it. I did not like Mookie Betts on the Red Sox. I was okay never having to face him ever again, except the potential World Series.
I mean, I will say, in the opening series against the Giants and Dodgers, Mookie didn't do that well. Just putting it out there.
A lot of superstars, including Mookie, have gone off to a slow start, but Mookie's starting to find his bat.
Yeah, I'm just glad it happened after the Giants.
I think it's everyone's rusty, honestly.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. That's why you have weird guys at the top of the WAR list and all the leaderboards.
Yeah. Yelich is dead bottom.
And I think even as you talk about slow starts, and something we had just talked about, what's going along with a lot of slow starts for a lot of players is a ton of injuries.
Yeah.
Because if you think about the low amount of time players have gotten to get ready, it's 2.5 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks versus 6 weeks in a usual spring training. Now you've got 3 pretty major guys. Justin Verlander out with a forearm strain. He's telling everybody he's being reevaluated. There's reports from the Houston Chronicle saying, he's done for the year. That's a situation to evaluate. Corey Kluber out for 4 to 6 weeks with shoulder tightness. 4 to 6 weeks doesn't sound like a lot until you realize that's a month of a 2-month season.
That's half the season.
Right. And then today, just now, I mean, literally right before we started recording this podcast.
Literally like 5 minutes before we started.
Yeah.
We had news come across that Shohei Ohtani is getting an MRI for discomfort in his pitching arm. And that was all that was said.
Yeah.
And I mean, you saw it today if you watched some of the videos. For a dude who usually hits 99, 100, it was up there at
He was
93,
throwing 95.
94. Yeah, 93,
Yeah.
94, 95. I mean, I've seen enough pitching injuries to know a drop off about 5-6 miles an hour isn't a good thing. Even if you're still hitting 95, if you're used to hitting 99, that's not a good thing.
And it
Absolutely.
wasn't like only today. He hit these numbers in his opening start where he didn't even record an out.
Yeah.
I mean, he just hasn't looked great. And I wondered if he just wasn't ready. I mean, coming off of Tommy John surgery
And then the slow ramp up.
Yes,
when normally you have a month ramp up.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the difference in the ramp up. I mean, these are all veteran guys. Or excuse me, two of these guys are veteran guys. Ohtani's considered a veteran guy given that he played overseas, and
he's veteran to baseball.
He's veteran to baseball. These are veteran type players who are out with injuries. Like this should not come as a surprise. These are guys who have played multiple years in the league and are used to getting 6 weeks to ramp up after a 3-4 month layoff. That's exactly what this was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that might be what you go ahead.
Someone go.
I'll go. I just think it points to the overall trend. It definitely seems like a lot of players, not just superstars, have been getting injured early, especially like the younger guys. Like there seems to be a lot more injuries for the first 2 weeks of a season than there normally would be.
Going back to the talk that Jordan's had about players being used to the very long ramp up, I think that also might be what's wrong with Kimbrel. He's had back-to-back off seasons where he's had a slow ramp up, first due to taking forever to sign with the team in free agency, and now because of the COVID business. And I think that might be why he can't find the strike zone.
It's the beard.
I think it's the beard.
Kelly's got this real thought-out argument. Nah, it's the beard.
No, but you're absolutely right though. Like, because like even in a non-COVID season, a non-weird season, Kimbrel takes forever to sign, has a rough year, and like back-to-back years where it happens again. He's had a rough start to 2020. Like it's beard aside, like his pitching's been subpar at best.
Yeah.
And the problem for a lot of these guys too is going to be, I mean, they're already talking about Kimbrel not being the closer for the Cubs. If you're a team with playoff aspirations, I mean, look at what happened to Fulton-Evich with the Braves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're a team with playoff aspirations in a 60-game season, that's not going to fly.
Not at all.
And it's only a detriment to them because it might not be something they personally did. It might not be a lack of talent. It might be a lack of ability to prepare for the season. Yeah. It's a worrisome season for those reasons too, where you're seeing guys dropping like flies, and for those that are still in and struggling, it might just be because they're not ready yet.
Yeah, I mean, it also might be pressing too hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially
with the shorter leash that players are getting, so you're pressing because the season's short and you need to get off to a hot start, and then you're pressing because you're not doing well, so you need to succeed. Otherwise, you're going to be riding the bench. So you're pressing even more, and that just leads to even more struggles. It's a vicious cycle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also
in a season that's especially with pitchers, like a starting pitcher especially. I mean, one start is worth, I'd say, 3 times more, because one win in this season is worth 3 seasons. 3.7. That seems like a too high of a number.
I think it's 2.7.
2.7.
2.7. That's what I meant.
I'm like 3.7. That there's not that many. I do math every day. That's not right.
Yeah.
Anyway, but like it's worth so much more. That's why you see someone like Fulton-Ellich like just gone. Guy like Kimbrel, a couple bad outings, demoted from closer role. Like this leash is so short for pitching. Like it is for batters too, but like pitching especially. Like
I'm curious if there's anything in the new protocols that like is affecting their routines also, because if they're not getting their normal work throughout the week, it could also be contributing.
That's valid.
And
something
something
I haven't thought much about, but like usually they're at the ballparks every day pitching a few more times, but I'm sure the protocols are trying to have that limited.
Yeah, you might not be able to throw as many bullpens or stretch out as long as you normally do, spending less time at the ballpark on game days as you usually do.
Yeah.
I think something interesting, like today I was watching the Giants-Rangers game, and something that the Giants broadcasters had brought up was like game flow. And the fact that something I know with people like making a lot of like jokes about it on Twitter, like how pitchers like get the strikeout, you don't get to do your strikeout strut around the mound.
Mm-hmm.
But like just game flow, like the rhythm of the game, like that's probably got to have some sort of effect on pitching, especially because they were talking about it. Because as two former players in the Giants broadcast booth, and Coop and Kite, like they like recognize how like important like even like a minor shift like that can be. So like something so small can have such big implications over time because it's just how the game's been. It's you grow up playing 20, 30 years of baseball. This is how it is. And when it changes cold turkey all of a sudden, it's just throws your entire existence off.
Yeah.
One good thing that has come from all of this, though, you know, with the expanded rosters, and you never want to say good things come from injuries, but some positive signs between
Sick transition.
some of the – thank you. I'm getting good at this. It's like I've done this before, right?
Yeah.
You know, with all these extra roster spots and you need some guys, has been a lot of call-ups around the league. A lot of guys you wouldn't necessarily expect to see in this season. Some you would, some you wouldn't. Just a little bit of a list here. Luis Robert started with the team. He signed a big contract, so he was going to start. Nate Pearson, Tyler Stephenson, Evan White, Brady Singer was a huge surprise, along with Chris Bubik, another one for the Royals, who I would not have anticipated seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Madrigal, David Peterson with the Mets, Carter Kieboom, an expected one, but still a role to play, and Jordan Weems, a converted catcher. These are
He might
a
have not
group of
even
names.
made the bullpen if it wasn't for the expanded roster. He might have started the season in AAA.
Right. You're looking
Yeah.
at
Double
a
A,
lot of these
maybe.
names and a lot of teams, even with players not on this list,
Yeah.
just getting chances to make a mark in these 2 weeks while rosters is still at 30. You can make an argument MLB might decide to expand this 30-player roster longer. I think that's a legitimate case that might be coming up as we get close to the 2-week mark, is will we decide to maybe not decrease it to 28 so quickly, or maybe we'll keep it at 28 for the year, whatever it might be. I think that's an interesting decision to come up with. Another one, Casey Mize was rumored to be coming up at some point for the Tigers. These are interesting names that, you know, with no minor league season, especially Brady Singer. Brady Singer was the one that jumped off the map for me.
Absolutely.
With no minor league season, whatever they're doing off on their taxi squad workouts, that does nothing for them. That's a season of lost development. So you can either choose to lose a season of development, or you can choose to lose a year of service. I think what you're seeing with a lot of these teams, and it's kind of nice to see, if I'm being honest, is prioritizing the year of development over the year of service time. Because Brady Singer is not necessarily major league ready, though he has pitched well. Chris Bubik has never pitched above high A, and he's in the major leagues right now.
Yeah.
Like these are unprecedented times, but they're also making these types of decisions.
Jordan, to your point, there's definitely, I think, a lot of these teams making the correct decision to get the extra year of service time. But I also think that there are a few taxi squads that might benefit more so than other teams. Because like the Tigers, they're going to bring up Mize. They're going to lose their prospect bat spacing against it. The Royals with Singer and Bubik. The Marlins, the Marlins prospects still have to face Sixto in the minors, even though I do expect him to maybe get a shot this year, especially with everything going on. They still have to face
start playing again.
Well, they're supposed to play on Tuesday. They still have to face Yamamoto. So I think that, to your point, like they should go for the development, but there are teams that still may be able to get some development in their taxi squads.
Oh yeah, I'm not necessarily saying, but at the same time, you can't.
It's just not the same.
It's not the same, right? You can't replicate that in-game scenario. Those, you probably have a pretty detailed scouting report on your own guys. I get what you're saying, though, Jonah. Like, it's a valid point that there are still enough good arms in a lot of these taxi squad rosters that you feel you're getting quality at-bats on a day-to-day basis. So
Yeah.
I do see the reasoning for putting some of your top prospects who aren't ready. I can speak from the White Sox perspective. Garrett Crochet, Jared Kelly, two guys they just signed, just drafted, are on their taxi squad.
Yeah.
Something's better than nothing for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I totally get where you're coming from with this.
And I think even like to that point, like you're going to see a lot more guys in the next week here coming up because you still do have teams playing that service time game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like teams like the Giants, like a lot of guys expected Joey Bart to be up right away at the start of the season because he looked great in both spring training and summer camp, left off the roster to start the season. But once you get like past that service time date for this year, like I think you can expect a lot of guys to jump up to the major league level.
Yeah,
I
Gavin
mean,
Lux.
Yeah, Gavin Lux, I want to talk about. He's not
That's a
on
good
the
question.
roster,
Especially.
which is surprising.
Big name.
Dodgers
Yeah.
don't necessarily need him, though.
Absolutely. Keep him in the minors. Trade him away.
Trade
Trade him to the Red Sox.
Extend the Kike instead.
I mean, that team is just a baseball factory. But at the same time, it's a good
Yeah.
point. Like, Lux is still down. Nate Pearson, they were pretty explicit about we're planning to call him up on this day, and that just happens to be the day he's going to make his start, and that just happens to be the day
day
after
service
which we
time.
get service time. Right.
Yeah.
There are teams who do a better job of it than others.
Monty is finally being freed. The Free Monty campaign has won.
Succeed.
So it's like some teams are better than others with it, but at the same time, you are still seeing teams doing it. But now that we're past that date, it's almost like you have to find the best day to create a reasonable scenario that says we weren't playing service time games while acknowledging as
absolutely
fans
were.
that you absolutely were.
And that's probably what's happening with Mize because the rumors were for today, but and it also could be the rain delays out in in
It's a
Cincinnati
huge,
and
huge story
Detroit.
with that.
But Mize was rumored to be called up today, so it very well might be service time.
I mean, he might come up tomorrow. They'll just say, hey, new series. We want him to start with the team tomorrow when we start a fresh new series, new team in the ballpark. Like,
Want him like an actual 9-inning game?
right. Hey, we want him to play during a 9-inning game, something like
As
that.
much
Like,
normalcy for a debut as possible is probably.
like you're going to see teams say crazy things, and it's because you can't outright say we are manipulating service time.
Because
like,
then it gets back to bite you in the butt.
Yeah.
if you
And now
jump.
I have an interesting question here before we move on from this because I'm curious. White Sox fans in general get pretty upset with Rick Hahn, who's the GM, over what he says about playing service time games. So Nick Madrigal is a great example. They said this. He said when Nick Madrigal didn't make the team, this team is better with Leury Garcia for XYZ reason. Fans were up in arms over it. He came up to start this series with the Royals, as a lot of you probably know. And again, it's clear service time manipulation.
Yeah.
I'm curious, as you know, your different fan bases, you see different things on Twitter, you talk with different people. Do other teams' fans get as upset with, well, let's just call it GM speak, as you would anticipate? I'm just curious about that.
I mean, at least in the Giant fan base, they used to, like a while back, and ever since we got Farhan, or how do you pronounce his name, whatever, the Heidi, like as soon as like the first like off season happened, like everyone jumped on the train. Like we believe in you, everything you say we take. You are basically our god now. Like it's after that first season, everyone like got that confidence in him, and so. With Bart not making it onto the opening roster this year, like he's like, yeah, he needs more at bats like every day. We can't give that to him right now, and we understand. Like, he's pretty transparent. He's like, we understand that, like how it looks, but it's not true. And like he does a very good job at making it like actually seem legit. We're all fairly certain service time thing, but we're also not absolutely sure. And I think that's important. And so Giants fans are like. We think he's being like legit. Like we have no reason not to believe him. So you'll see it a lot less in our fan base, but also we have a lot less top prospects. So like that's another part of it.
Yeah, I can talk about the two fan bases I follow the most, which are the Marlins. And the Marlins are obviously upset. I already talked about how they were pissed that Monty Harrison wasn't called up yet, and they started this whole campaign. So I think the Marlins
That
fans
worked.
yeah, it worked. Not really, but
Yeah.
different circumstances. I think the Marlins fans they wanted the team not to play service time, but on the other hand, the other fan base I follow is the Mets, and I think the Mets are kind of pissed that they're not playing the service time game this year because it was super surprising that Andres Jimenez was on the opening day roster when they already have Ahmed Rosario, who was coming off a career season. B, Jimenez, I'm pretty sure hadn't played a game above high A, so they're going to lose this year of service time for him, for a guy that's basically been on the bench. He's been playing third base a bit, but I think the Mets fan base would prefer them to have played the service time game with Jimenez at least.
It's valid.
Between Puck, Luzardo, and Murphy, they've all been too injured to play the service time game with. We haven't really had the option to call them up because Puck was going to make the opening day roster out of spring training 2018. I was at the game where he tore his UCL and he just hit Tommy John.
Oh, man.
And then in 2019, Luzardo was set to make the team out of spring training, but he got it was either a pectoral strain or a shoulder strain that shut him down. And then Murphy, he had knee issues, and then he broke his hamate bone. And so that prevented us from calling them up earlier than we did. So I don't really know.
Some mixed bag here.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. I don't know how other fan bases react, so I just wanted to ask that.
Yeah, I'd imagine some fan bases aren't as kind to their GMs as others.
Yeah.
That's
I'm not
a
really,
topic for a different day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm not really integrated well with the Padres fan base, so I don't really know how they think of her. I do know that some people are very all in on him.
But I mean, I get it. I do get it, how fans react. But at the same time, you kind of got to expect that out of your GM.
Yeah.
It's the games that are going to be played. It's what's going to happen. But
I think the
If you
big thing for a lot of fans.
yeah.
If you've ever played out of the park baseball, you understand how important an extra year of service time can be.
No, OTP plug.
Oh man. But no, that's
Not
interesting.
sponsored.
It's interesting.
That's fine.
But
Yeah.
we'll move on from talking about, some of the news of the league and instead talk about, based on what you're watching as a fan or as an analyst, whatever you want to talk about. Everyone's got one story. Everyone's going to have a storyline for the week. Talk about it a little bit. Talk about what you're seeing, what you're thinking about it. If anyone else has comments, feel free to go with it. And then we'll wrap it up with some of the notable upcoming series. But who wants to go first with their storyline from around the league?
Me.
Oh, really? I have no idea.
All right. So I
I'm going
want
to try and count the times Yaz has said in this segment.
Okay, so I'm talking about Mike Yastrzemski. I said Yastrzemski, not Yaz.
Fine.
No, but I mean, if a lot of people haven't exactly followed Giants baseball the last couple of years, because let's be honest, there's really not a whole lot to watch if you're not a fan. But Mike Yastrzemski has been our guy the last couple of years, or last year, and so far this season. He was, for the Giants fans at least, we were expecting him to be the guy for us. We were expecting him to be really good, but no one expected him to be leading the league in WAR through the first 10 games.
Yeah.
So
Offensive WAR.
Offensive WAR, yeah, that's true. Depending on what you look at, he's tied with Bieber. Actually, I think he's ahead of Bieber now. But I mean, him and actually JP Crawford. When I use Fangraphs, they're tied at the top with 1 WAR apiece.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's wild, because he was a 28-year-old rookie last year, debuted in May. He spent 7 years in the minors, I believe, and he was with the Orioles for a long time. We got him for I don't even remember what, but then we brought him up, and like it was the big thing was he's a Yastrzemski, like he's
Sure.
he's a ball player, but he's a Yastrzemski, and so
It's
like
the grandson of Carl.
Ransom and Carl, and he came up and just started hitting and like playing well. Well, I mean, granted, players around him, I mean, he didn't have to do a whole lot to like be looking great. But like so far this season, like through 10 games, he has 11 walks. His on base percentage, I believe, is hovering around 500. At a game where he had 2 splash hits, which is when you hit it out of the stadium into McCovey Cove, and the only other player to do that, Barry Bonds.
High company.
Yeah.
High company indeed.
Yeah. Like it's been wild to like watch this season because like him, like the Giants as a whole have been a surprising team. Like him and Donovan Solano, which is also a very small, lesser known name. Like
Marlins.
What? Marlins?
Former Marlin. That's the only reason I know who he is.
Donnie Barrels. That's what they started calling him.
Leads the league in RBIs.
Yeah, leads the league in RBIs, but like
MVP. MVP.
I mean, he keeps going. He's on pace for 6 WAR in a 60-game season. Just saying.
Yeah. Hey, I drafted him in WAR League with my 4th pick, so I'm very happy.
Absolute. But yeah, but like even like looking at the broader spectrum of WAR as a whole, like the guys in the top 10, like WAR, like there's a lot of surprising names up here, like Yastrzemski, J.P. Crawford. Like I'm sure no one expected Shane Bieber to be this good this early.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Then like Dansby Swanson, I don't think anyone expected this. Like people are very back and forth on Dansby Swanson, in my experience anyway. But like he's worth 0.9 WAR so far through 10 games. So I mean, and like guys like Mookie Betts is up there, but he's not at the very top, which a lot of people I feel like would be surprised about.
Yeah. Fun fact: Acuna, Bellinger, and Yelich combined before today's games combined for negative 0.9 WAR.
You love to see that. But I think another thing that's like that kind of goes around the whole COVID thing, like. Tied for 10th place in WAR is Miguel Rojas, who's played 3 games.
Yeah.
3 games is worth 0.7 WAR.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you're going to get a lot of these guys who, like, you would never see at the top of the leaderboards at any point in the season.
Yeah.
That, like, it's legit. You can legitimately see them at the very top of the leaderboard all season long. There's 60 games. All you got to do is get a little bit hot for a part of it. And that's what it's been like for Mike Yastrzemski. Like, he's been hot from the start of the season, and he's walking a lot. He's getting the big hits and everything. He's worth a lot of WAR, and it's kind of been crazy. And so I love Mike Yastrzemski.
Clearly.
Giants fan.
All right,
I don't know about Mike Yastrzemski, so.
Diego, are you ready for this transition?
I am.
So you mentioned things, you're not necessarily used to seeing. You're surprised to see with a 60-game season. Yeah. I'm looking at the rundown here, and I'm seeing something from Jonah that I'm not necessarily surprised at that he wants to talk about as his storyline for Around the League. How about that for a transition?
Sadly, I'm not surprised either.
Laz, do you sell motorized vehicles? Because that was a segue.
I'm not surprised either, but I'm feeling very let down right now. So yeah, in the past few years, especially last year, the Mets bullpen has put me close to extinction. But entering this year, it was supposed to be the bright spot. I mean, we say this every year as a fan base that our pitching supposed to be our bright spot, but this year specifically without Thor, with Stroman starting the DL the season on the DL, we Wheeler to the Phillies. We were looking at our bullpen to help cover that. Seth Lugo was coming off an amazing year. We were hoping Diaz would be back. Familia we were hoping to be back, but we also signed Dylan Betances, who obviously has had a great career for the Yankees, and Justin Wilson, who is more known as a lefty specialist, but has pitched innings before and with the new rule still has. But they have all imploded.
I was gonna say it was supposed to be a strength, wasn't it?
It was supposed to be arguably the best bullpen in the league. It was supposed to be our biggest strength, and it's imploded. Diaz has blown a couple of saves. He's been removed from the closer role, at least for now. He pitched in the 7th earlier today in a low leverage situation, so we'll see where that moves going forward. And then the next in line was Seth Lugo after he got a bunch of saves last year when Diaz did the same thing. But their game on Saturday just absolutely killed me. They were up 8-2 in the 5th inning.
Oh no!
And they lost 11-10, including I think Lugo gave up 3 or 4 of those runs in the 8th or the 9th inning. It was it was an absolute brutal implosion, and the Mets bullpen. Like, I'm not surprised, but I am hurt.
I got one question as a White Sox fan. Two questions. 2-part, one question, whatever. I'm getting off track. Will the Mets ever sell? And 2, how much would it take to get Michael Conforto as a team in need of a right fielder?
A Chick-fil-A sandwich.
I mean, I know the Mets fan base has been saying this. They said this last year that was the last year to really make a push, but I think they especially felt it this year. And if this continues, they're sitting at 3-6, 3-7 after today's game. They're just imploding in on themselves. Their defense, we were hoping would be better. So if this keeps up, I wouldn't be surprised if they start selling at the deadline. Or did you mean or did you mean the Wilpon selling? Because that's
selling at the deadline. That's
selling at the deadline. Selling. That's what I thought you meant.
No, trust me. I care way more about when I can get Michael Conforto in right field than I do when the Wilpons are going to sell this team.
I honestly think. I mean, it's hard to tell because of the circumstances this year, but I think this could be that if they're doing really poorly at the deadline, they might realize that this was their last shot and start selling.
Who would go first?
Who would go first?
Yeah.
If I had to bet, it would be Nimmo or Rosario.
I will also take Brandon Nimmo.
Do you not like John Jay?
No, I don't like John Jay.
No. How about Billy Hamilton? We acquired him today.
Yeah, we gave you Billy
that's
Hamilton.
the move that's going to fix the season right there.
Yep.
if you keep playing extra inning games, he can pitch.
Yeah, we're honestly just gonna have him strike out when the game's tied in the 9th with 2 outs, and then have him start on second.
You can pinch run to start the 10th. You know that, right?
That sounds a lot better.
I mean, if your bullpen keeps going games.
Our bullpen, with the state of the bullpen, there's not going to be extra inning games. We'll have it tied and we'll blow it.
Or if you're leading and blow it, I mean, Billy Hamilton, he's going to be your guy.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Considering how stellar Mets management is, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't remember they can pinch run at the start of the 10th.
I mean, clearly neither does the fan base.
As a fan base had him previously, that's why I know.
Yeah.
Like we had him in the majors, but that's the only reason I do that.
That's fair. All right, got another good transition here. From bullpen implosions to offensive explosions. Padres, offensive explosions. Callie, your storyline for the week. I am 2 for 2.
So, I have a theory that Jace Tingler's favorite Aerosmith song is Walk This Way. Now, hear me out. The Padres, they're walking a lot.
Who leads the
That's all my evidence.
Yastrzemski.
So prior to the game today, their second game, or was it the third? Prior to the 2nd of August, they were leading the MLB in walks drawn with 43. They might not be anymore. They only drew 2 walks in today's game against the Rockies, but still, they're averaging 4.5 walks a game. They're averaging 4.5 walks a game, which is a lot better than where they were last year when they were just 26th in on base percentage.
Yeah.
So their patience has led to, like last said, an offensive explosion. They have a plus. They have the best run differential in the MLB. We know that Dodgers have the best run differential. They have, I believe, the second best run differential. And it's not just because they're walking; they have the ability to kill you in other ways. They are a very strong team, very good power hitters. Um, Tatis, Pham, Machado, Myers, Hosmer, and Naylor all were above the MLB average in exit velocity last year. And Hosmer's now actually hitting the ball in the air, so he's actually good now. They also have a lot of speed. Myers, Tatis, obviously, and Cam are all very good runners. And as of August 1st, they led the MLB in base run runs with 2.2, more than double. No, not more than doubling the second place Texas Rangers, who have just 1.1. So their walking has led to quite a lot of success because you need to challenge them to avoid walking them and then them beating you on the base paths. But if you do that, they can take you deep. Trent Grisham's been a major surprise in this way, hitting a lot of home runs despite his wonky hands.
I was watching, I think it was the second game of the season, so we're going to go back a week, but at some point, like it was like the 8th or 9th inning where the announcers said that through 2 games, the Padres had drawn 29 full counts, which I just thought was ridiculous.
Yeah. That's insane.
It's ridiculous. That doesn't happen anymore in the majors.
Because you're seeing at least 6 pitches, like at a full count, like minimum.
Yeah.
Like if you drawn 29 through 2 games, like you're already into a bullpen, like pretty deep.
Yeah. Many people thought it would be the Padres pitching, both starting and relieving, that would lead them to the postseason. But if this keeps up, it's going to be their offense, because their bullpen isn't as stellar as many had hoped through this many games.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't have a cool transition for mine.
5.
We're gonna talk about the AL Rookie of the Year race real quick, and then we'll get into what to watch for as we wrap it up.
There's such an easy transition there. Like the Padres are a young team. Let's talk about some young guys in the AL.
Okay, that would have been a good one.
Come on, you're slacking, Laz.
I'm slacking. I didn't find any good phrases. That's on me. But anyway, something for me to watch for personally, as well as just my storyline. A couple of real hot starts for Rookie of the Year. Luis Robert was an odds-on favorite for the most part. As a Sox fan, I was a little worried. Someone who has watched a lot of rookies come up recently and really struggled to get their footing. I was not expecting Robert to really put his name in the hat very early for Rookie of the Year campaign. He started off really well. I'm pretty impressed with his at-bats, the quality of his at-bats, the process he's going up there with. I'm very impressed by it.
He's 5th in the league in WAR. Fun fact.
Yeah. He's been hitting incredibly well. His defense speaks for itself. It's absolutely incredible out in center field. He's a fun guy to watch. On the other side of things, someone I don't know if we necessarily expected to be someone who might be pushing for AL Rookie of the Year, that being Kyle Lewis out in Seattle. Pretty hot start to the season through 9 games. I'm not sure if this is totally updated from today, but through 9 games, 444 batting average, OBP 500, slugging 611, good for an OPS plus of a measly 216.
I don't believe that includes today, because I wrote about him in an article earlier today and had those numbers.
So it doesn't include today, which likely means it got better, because I think he hit a homer today.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
So, I mean, just something to watch out for. A couple real good starts.
Pretty sure
he does have 15 strikeouts.
Going on.
Sorry?
I'm pretty sure he's on like a 10-game hit streak right now.
I mean, with 16 hits through 9 games, I'd say he probably is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, 15 strikeouts, is towards the top of the league for Lewis. It'll be interesting to see how the bat-to-ball skills continue to play throughout the year. But just an interesting storyline to watch for. If any of you bettors have placed any bets on Rookie of the Year campaigns, those are two early names I saw.
Would you consider Pearson at all for Rookie of the Year? He pitched 5 scoreless innings.
The way he pitched, yeah, he's gonna put his name in there.
COVID robbed us of a potential Luzardo Rookie of the Year season. Bob Melvin's robbing us of the Barreto Rookie of the Year season. Give him a chance. You spent what? How many years ago was the Donaldson trade?
Yeah.
A while.
2015? I think it was 2015.
Wow.
It's been
That's
5 years.
5 years.
Call him up. Give him a spot already.
5 years ago, I was still living in California.
It's been so long, I forgot that Donaldson was on the A's.
There you go.
It's been so long, we faced the other guy in trade piece, Kendall Graveman, in a game today.
Oh, man. Some fun names there.
Yeah.
Those are good names.
Evan White's doing pretty bad after I saw him being talked about. He's supposedly a very good defender. He has less DRS than Matt Olson, who has 2. Evan White only has 1. So if he's 80 grade, what's Olson?
81.
Yeah.
Very good.
I will keep rubbing this in
82.
as long as possible.
The A's fan is coming out of Cali, clearly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I appreciate the A's.
I do too. I do too.
Everything about the A's I appreciate except for their stadium.
That's valid.
Yeah.
It's a fine stadium if you're just looking at the field.
That's fair. I mean, I've been to several A's games in my life, and, you know, the best part's always the baseball. You don't go for the stadium.
Yeah.
I went to an A's game for $4. I mean,
heck of a deal. Depending on
like,
the year.
It was like early 2012 or 2010s, I'm pretty sure.
Jeez.
There was only one time I've been to a game for the stadium. It was because I was in Boston. I literally I needed to go to Fenway. I landed in Boston at like 12:30 and got to the game at 1:30.
Nice.
Well, let's bring it home now, why won't we?
Mm-hmm.
So, we've talked a little bit about some of the storylines around the league. You know, I'm running out of stuff. I'm trying.
That's fair. You're good.
We got the rundown of
storylines. Some new ones might be made this upcoming week.
Kelly. You want to take over for me with all your ideas over here?
Sure. The Padres take on the Dodgers in I believe it's a 3-game series. The first game of which is going to be Chris Paddock versus Walker Buehler, which should be a pitching match for the ages.
Doesn't get much better than that.
It's just an insane matchup between 2 of the best young pitchers in the league.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The A's take on the Rangers, and Luzardo is going to be making his starting debut on Tuesday.
So some fresh faces around the league. You got some good pitching matchups. Jonah, Diego, what are you watching for this week?
I mean, I admittedly haven't looked ahead so much as the schedule, but considering the fact that 20% of the league didn't play this weekend, I'm just excited that there will be at least 28 teams playing. Hopefully all 30 if we get the Cardinals cleared. And also, I mean, Soto's finally gotten those negatives, so maybe he'll finally be back.
Yeah.
That's something to definitely watch.
See if the Nats offense gets into a better gear with Soto in the air.
Yeah.
Hope for the best for them. I mean, for me,
Yeah.
of course I'm watching my Giants, but I mean, mostly for Giants Rockies. The Giants are heading to Colorado. I mean, with MLB war leader Mike offensive war, depending on what you're using. Yeah, but I mean, they've had a couple of hot bats and a couple of really slow ones too. Hunter Pence got his first hit today. He started, I believe, all but 2 games so far this season. So, I mean, Coors is a great place to get the bats started. And plus the fact that the NL West, if the AC's done today, holds 4 playoff teams, I mean, it's got to be a decent game to watch, probably offensively. I don't know how well pitching is going to be. But it's going to be a series to watch, considering that, like Callie had mentioned, the Padres and the Dodgers are facing together too. So you can have a lot of switching in position in the NL West this week.
Yeah.
What's
What's the old
Daniel Bard pitch?
Daniel Bard, what a guy.
Yeah, what a fun story that is.
what's the over under for MVP mentions of Yaz next week in next week's podcast episode?
If
You
I'm
know-
not here,
If Diego's here, I'll go like 6.5. If he's not, I don't think
I
he
would
gets
definitely
mentioned.
take the over.
Yeah, I'm taking the over on
Yeah.
that.
For sure.
Krzyzewski, what a guy.
For me, though, nothing crazy. I mean, the Sox play the Brewers, which kind of
That's a fun series.
combines my storylines with Yelich getting off to such a slow start, seeing if he can finally pick it up and help a Brewers team that's found its way in the playoffs picture somehow through 10 games, despite really not having their main contributor coming out on the offensive side. And, you know,
Their
there's been
pitching's
plenty
pretty
of
good.
– their pitching's been good. There's plenty of question marks with it, but it's been absolutely good. So
And
it'll be
you're
interesting to see them.
And Hiura's been off to a fast start.
Yeah.
And seeing them now without Kane.
Yeah, Kane and now
Yeah.
Braun went on the DL. So it's a team with a lot of question marks, a lot of holes right now just because of the situation presented to them. But I'm especially looking forward to seeing Yelich, and hopefully he doesn't pick it up in the next 4 games. But, you know, if he wants to pick it up in the 3 after that, that would be fantastic.
If he
I wouldn't
wants to
have
go
any
1
problem.
for 4 days, like that's fine.
Yeah, he can go
I
1 for
just-
4, nothing too crazy. But,
I just hope those games actually get off.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a valid
Yeah.
concern. I don't know. It's something to watch for. It's something to watch around the league as these games start picking up again. And as you start hearing more and more names start all getting connected together, see what games start getting canceled. And, you know, it's not a fun situation, but something that we'll
It's a real
continue to
situation.
monitor. Yeah, it's a real
I-
situation.
I think that if they get to another point where 20% of the teams aren't playing on any given weekend, that the season
They'll
will
cancel.
probably be canceled.
It'll really depend on, you know, which teams aren't playing, what the situation for those teams looks like. I don't know what it will take to cancel the season. I think we all kind of say we know, or it's
Yeah.
kind of like this is it, this is the end. I don't know what it's gonna take.
Just play video games all day.
Be the
Heck
Oakland
yeah.
A's.
Yeah, be the
Yeah.
Oakland A's. Go to the ballpark, watch some baseball, play some baseball, go to the hotel, play video games, play some more video games. I mean, that's what we've all been doing throughout this entire
Mhm.
COVID concern and
Yeah.
COVID
Absolutely.
environment anyway, so. But,
Yeah.
ladies, gentlemen, baseball fans, welcome to the end of Diamond Digest This Week in Baseball, Episode 1. As you've made it all the way through, we want to thank you for joining us. We want you to stay tuned as we continue these throughout the weeks of the season, no matter how many of them we get. You can follow us at diamonddigest.com, at Diamond Digest on Twitter. You'll listen to this wherever podcasts can be found. And we'll make sure to put this on YouTube, too, where we hope you're watching all our funny expressions as we've gone through this one. It makes a lot more sense when you can see us rather than just hear us.
Yeah.
That's
But
true.
for Callie Tsai, Diego Franco-Carreno, and Jonah Keehn, this is Jordan Lazowski signing off. Take care. Enjoy your days. And go baseball as always. Let's hope we get a season. Take care,
Go
everyone.
baseball.
Yes, sir. Amen.
Go
Yeah, that's the
baseball.
rallying cry
Why
for
not?
Tuesday. We just want some baseball.
Yes.
Absolutely.